Hi, everybody. Tommy Archuleta here. Welcome you to this amazing event. I want to thank Chloe and Patricia and our humble director for putting this on. This is really, really amazing. I've known I've known Bill for quite a while, and it's happy Father's Day to the fathers, by the way. It's events like this that just sort of press the pause button on life and gives us an opportunity to kind of sort of get recalibrated in all that we do, it's kind of a serious event, because the topic, at least in terms of incarceration, is really it's something that we all know about, but I work with people that are voiceless, and their voices have been removed along with their freedom. And no matter what level of security we're dealing with in this country, we deal with 6 levels of security, and I've worked at all of them. And although some privileges are allotted to those that are in the lower levels of security where they have more movement, they're still voiceless. This legislature that has restored their voting right to those that have been released, a lot of them, I'm not a betting person, but I would venture a lot of them don't even know that their voting rights have been restored. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to help Adam, as if Adam needs my help. He's got enough power to light a city, those of you that know him. And it's just quite an honor to be there. Same with Bill. Bill's been trying to turn one of our prisons into a treatment center to actually increase the reentry potential with our population that's leaving prison. My laureateship, it's an exhaustive process. They want to know a lot of stuff about what the hell you want to do. And yeah, you even have to write down what are you going to do with the money. It's a lot of money. And so I did all that. And I wanted to do something different. With all due respect to the past laureates, I know them all, save one. But not too long ago, I was voiceless. So, I was already doing poetry in the prison where I worked down the street at PNM, and I was already weaving creative writing into the curriculum. So when they announced that I would receive the appointment, that was my first outreach program. We've already started creating a manuscript of poems. I'm going to read a few of them today to you this morning, and then we're going to do some chatting over here. But at this point, there's a lot of individuals that have submitted poems that don't want their names in a book because we've got a publisher, and Winter Bitter Foundation is going to be producing the book. So it's gonna be nice. It's gonna be a beautiful book. But a lot of guys don't want their names in there for different reasons. So I'm going to honor that and read 3 poems from the manuscript. We're hoping that the book will see the light of day early 25. All of these 3 poems I'm going to read, they're all clients of mine in psychoeducational courses that I facilitate, where I do group therapy with them, with my guys also. So here we go. And two of these gentlemen have already re-entered their respective communities. The title of this piece is I Have Fought. I am young, yet so old. I know now that I know so little. I've learned how to hold on while letting go. I've helped and I've hurt. I've lifted some up. I've sent others to the dirt. I've been poor and I've been rich. I went from living in a house to sleeping under a bridge. I've been hungry and I've been well fed. I've been loved and I've been left for dead. I've been free and I've been imprisoned. I've been good. I live among the unforgiven. Doors of iron, day after day, shut in my face. Doors of iron, day after day, open wide. Some chains can never be removed. The chains inside me, I no longer can hide. Out there I lost my freedom. In here I've learned that words are unstoppable. That was written by New Mexico Corrections prisoner ID number 53330. This poem was written by a mentor in our mental health program. Mentors undergo a lot of we'll just say, because they're trying to change themselves. It's a funny phenomenon, really. We see it in society. Some people don't like other people to get better. This poem is called Myself. If I don't start with me, if I don't change for me, if I don't change for myself, then my son will have to find another hero. NMCD ID number 578451. And this is written by another mentor, presently with me. Foolish Light is the title of this piece. I can't ignore the butterflies. They tell me sweet little lies. I try not to listen. I fight this affliction, this heart's foolish ambition. Through these bars I see your soul. I curse the jailer in me. Day after day I pay the toll. Like grains of sand through an open hand, I slowly pray for control. If I make it out alive, how will I act? What if I look at you? What if you look back? Tell me, where do you hide from the enemy inside, born with 100,000 disguises, NMCD number 77483. I'll take your applause back to them on Monday.
Hello, all. We are in a unique situation here, hosted by the wonderful museum and the management of the museum and the enthusiasm of the people that work here. This is amazing stuff. You know, as it mentioned, I got involved in criminal justice reform, investigation, work, care, concern, compassion, and we sit here today, the three of us, we have some questions that we want to ask them that they will jointly respond to. And I'll start with one. Question 1, how does creative writing and creativity in general impact the lives of the incarcerated you work with, both in daily prison life and post-release?
Chewy question. So 5 years ago, I got hired by the New Mexico Corrections Department. It was a goal. In grad school, I started to study corrections counseling because I've been in the substance abuse treatment, God, it's an industry now, for going on 15 years. By then, I was already 10 years in. So I was working on the front lines of the opioid epidemic, and I was working in inpatient substance abuse treatment here locally and outpatient. And upwards easy of 80% of my clientele or caseload, these were all men and women on probation and parole, getting their lives back, trying to do that. So in a way, when I would talk to them, I found out that there was there was nothing for them to do to better themselves. There was no programming. And in order to, and the few programs that were there for them, you had to have like enormously good like disciplinary conduct. It's really hard to have good conduct in a prison where you're constantly getting policed. I mean, I see guys that get written up for having their shirts not tucked in. Personally, I don't care what you look like in my class. If you're showing up, something's gonna happen. The other thing is they know they're gonna be treated like a human being. I kind of like the idea of having numbers on their poems because I like the contrast between a system that dehumanized people all the way down to making them a number, but yet they're writing poems that are obviously not written by AI. They're written by human beings that have flesh and blood, that have fears, that have hopes. And so there's portions of my class where we put aside the curriculum. I give them notebooks. One of the exercises that I do with new students is I bring in a child's tennis shoe. It's an infant's tennis shoe, and I put it down on my desk, and I tell them to open their notebooks, and I tell them, write me a poem about where the other shoe is. Where is it? Where's the child? And you give people an opportunity to open up, and they'll do it. And in doing that, they come back and tell me that they are really grateful. And what I'm reading is I'm finding that the voiceless, quote unquote, actually have a voice. And when you find a voice, it's not too far from where you start to find purpose.
Thank you for that. I just want to say real quick, this is, it's a very intentional event on Father's Day here in Santa Fe. I think more so because we want to stress the importance of family and what it does when someone is incarcerated. That's part of the next question. But, to me personally, with regards to question 1, creativity in the creative mind exists, and I think it even heightens when you're in incarceration based on your circumstances. If any of you have never been in a prison cell, a solitary confinement cell, neglected to no end, it's truly remarkable what the mind can do to survive those circumstances. And these are things that we do to people that are US citizens. They're people coming to this country from other countries to seek asylum. Incarceration is just something that doesn't belong in our culture. But I'd like to say that somebody like Tommy has the ability to harness the energy and creative energy of people behind bars, and I applaud him for choosing that as his occupation. And believe it or not, it takes some kind of a strong individual to make that their life's work. I just, in hearing him read the poems right now, I can't help but reflect on the fact, again, that the names are removed from the poetry, and people are given a number, a New Mexico corrections number. I'm so grateful for the advocacy tables in the back there, and I have several mentors back there, but I want to just make a quick statement. Justin Allen back there wrote a sentence that said, "The walls taught us to creatively communicate." So again, that's a way for people to use their minds behind bars when there's nothing there to figure out a way to say hello or to get their emotions dealt with or to deal with whatever's going on a daily basis. So again, I'm so grateful for this opportunity to be here today as somebody who's formerly incarcerated, and to share my life experience with you all. Thank you so much.
Moving on. We don't have to move far to take into our souls and hearts what's been said here this morning already. I mean, this is real stuff. The second question is, how does mass incarceration affect families?
Can I answer first? So, excuse me for being the first one to speak on this one. I'm so blessed to be here on Father's Day and have my daughter Tatiana here. She's 23 years old. But I'm going to tell you guys something brutally honest. When I was in the federal courtroom in El Paso, Texas, my daughter was present. Excuse me. Tatiana, I'm sorry. For what my crime put you through. Nothing can ever take away the time that you're removed from your family, your loved ones, and the damage that it does to your immediate family especially. For me personally, I was somebody who worked every day. I was a functional addict. And I lost everything. I think we find that when we, let me back up a little bit. I think accountability for my crime was the most important thing I could have done is taking responsibility, and it's made me a stronger person. I'm so grateful for the relationship that I have with you, Tatiana, now. And how it affects families is a very negative thing. I think, maybe in a conversation on a different day I could speak to it, but it's very tragic. It's as if a tornado sweeps through your house and you come out after the tornado is over and you see that everything's gone. That's what it's like going to prison. And when we come back, we find that we have no credit history. We have a felony. The first place that I applied for just a normal job was Walmart, and I was denied a job after having 20 years of experience in the automotive field. I'm a certified master technician. I've been building engines for Subarus since 2001. I have a college degree, and I still couldn't get a job. So how mass incarceration affects families isn't just while you're incarcerated. The anxiety that I experienced before I got indicted federally was absolutely deplorable. I was arguing with my partner on a regular basis. We had no idea how long I was going to go away for. It's very real, and it's unfortunate. I think that as a culture, we really need to begin to look at the incarceration process. Why are we locking people up? Why are we continually locking people up? Again, I accept full responsibility for my crime, and that's why I'm here today, because I'm trying to make things better for humanity. We need to find cures for things like addiction, which are curable. We need to find help for people that are homeless. We, as a culture and society, and here we are at the International Museum of Folk Art, which is a tremendous avenue for community. I mean, you see the people in here today to represent, and they could have been doing something totally different. Instead, they're here supporting this work, and the organizations in the back tables there. But I'm just so grateful to be here, and I just ask that you guys think about, Father's Day, what it means, and then about all the children out there that have fathers that are incarcerated. And not just about the person behind bars, but what are the children going through? Why are we not finding ways to deal with societal issues that don't necessarily require incarceration? So I just ask that you guys really look within yourselves. People need love. We don't need prisons. We don't need things like mass incarceration. We don't need solitary confinement. And I'll just end with that. Thank you.
So, Adam is an example, not to objectify you, but you're an example of, a successful reentry. And it's an honor to know you. So here's from my side of the thing. I don't have children. I have a Chihuahua, and he's 11 years old, and he is recovering from. He doesn't speak English. He's from Mexico, so he's also an immigrant, and doesn't have papers, and so I don't, doesn't have a job. I could go on and on, but I am his father. But so here's what I've seen what incarceration does to the family of my clients. Some of my clients had families before they got incarcerated. But because of what they did, their families disowned them, so they don't have a place to go back home. When you're incarcerated, one of the ways that you get commissary, which are things like, like oatmeal, tennis shoes, toothpaste that, one of 3 flavors, a television, which is it's about 12 inches by 12 inches. It's a flat screen, and I still haven't figured out why the state charges $450 for something that could be bought at Walmart for $89. That's a conversation for another day. So they don't have anybody at home to send money or put them on their bank account books. So they have to work a job, which is about maybe 30 cents an hour, to the top paying job at our prison is $1.50, and that's if you know how to drive a front loader. I watch some guys who are doing a lot of time. I have a client in one of my classes who had an infant who was born a few days after he was incarcerated, and they just recently on Zoom celebrated her 10-year birthday via Zoom. So, you've got children growing up without their fathers. So, we talk about all these other family wrecking instances, but what's left out of the conversation is incarceration is one of our biggest home wreckers. It really is. And then, so as a substance abuse counselor and as a mental health counselor, there's this huge statistic that kept popping up in grad school, which is 85% of all incarcerated men and women in the United States are there on drug-related charges. Either they were arrested because they were holding drugs, or they were selling drugs, or they were using drugs, or they were intoxicated in some way. And when the screenings come back, we find that that same number, pretty close, identifies as having an issue, a substance abuse disorder. So the big question that I kept trying, and I'm still trying to ask, is why are we incarcerating people at such an enormous rate that have a public health problem? Please walk me through this. But part of the thing is that I'm finding, so, you know, a lot of people know I'm in recovery. I make that known because, like, I field a lot of questions of, like, how the hell do you not drink for 25 years? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's go talk at the parking lot. You know, there's different ways. This is a great time in history to have a substance abuse disorder, because there's a lot of different ways to get better. So the programs that I facilitate are trying to show my clients that there's ways that you can find purpose in your life so you can get back to your family, and they take time off their sentence for successful completion. It's not much. Sometimes it's 30 days, sometimes it's 90 days, but I get some of my programs are last a year, so I spend a lot of time with these individuals, and I can know I'm learning how to read when they're having a bad day, and most of it is because they're talking or they had a phone call, and sometimes those phone calls do more damage than solitary confinement because it tears them apart. Because there's problems at home and they can't be there to help. And they take that into their day. So, you know, part of the problem is that I've seen is New Mexico trades places with Mississippi at the bottom of the barrel in terms of money for resources for these people. I mean, it's either Mississippi or us that are at the bottom of the barrel. I don't know who it is this year. Maybe it's us. And if it's not us, it'll be us next year. So we don't have the resources for our guys. So, you know, Adam's encouraging you to do stuff. I'm going to encourage you to look at people, policymakers, that might be giving this much of concern to what we're talking about today. Because that's where it's going to take. It's going to take policy reformation. It's going to take us voters showing that we care. Because it's not going to change over there. This guy is a minority. Most guys will go back. You have to realize that there are some guys that are going to be released into society, and for them, out here, it's a vacation. Because that's home. You have to realize there are 22 and 23-year-old kids coming into prison because, why? That's their dream, is to be a shot caller. What kind of a family do you have to come from for that to be your dream? Nobody incarcerates like the United States. Nobody makes as much money from it. But look at what we do. We warehouse our elderly. We warehouse our mentally ill. Of course we should warehouse our criminals. Why do we call it corrections? What are we correcting? What are we correcting? He corrected himself. Love corrected this guy. Not solitary confinement.
Thank you both for being so straight up about reality. Tommy calls his people clients. Man, that is an upgrade to reality because they have mental health issues that they need to have corrected. And it's happening inside with a man like that leads the program. The young man that I got involved with as far as his prison sentence and family, and we visited together and all of that stuff. And he spent 4.5 years in prison. But the cost, his family, his parents are divorced. You know, the father lives in another state. All families have their own tragedy as a result of incarceration. There are other ways to handle situations, like these guys have said. Let me go on to the third question. What are some of the most difficult aspects of being incarcerated? How does being incarcerated change a person, especially once they are back outside?
This is a very tough question. I think for me, there's nothing that isn't difficult, or any aspect of incarceration that isn't difficult whatsoever. I think for me personally, I fought to not assimilate to prison life, and I don't know if that was a detriment, but it really helped me to understand how much fortitude I had personally by not joining gangs, by staying sober behind the walls. There's an expectation that everybody that goes into a facility is gonna join a group, a specific genre, or whatever you wanna call it. In my federal prison, it was called a car, and everybody would just stay in their lane, for lack of better words. And, I think that for me, again, I never felt safe. The violence inside prison is very real. The things that we experience, visceral, the screams, the own physical altercations, it's not easy. So, second part of the question, how does being incarcerated change a person? It changes us in ways that people that don't experience incarceration would never understand. Something that Tommy said was that love changed me. I've always had love in my life. I never had it from my father. My father told me one time before he passed away that he loved me. And I had to ask him. I lived in a very violent alcoholic household, and it wasn't easy growing up. So we end up in the situations we're in a lot of times based on how we grow up in a home. But incarceration changes us in ways, again, that people just, and I think Tommy can speak to this because he talks to people every day on their own coping mechanisms and how they deal with incarceration and the things that they find in situations they find themselves in. It makes us very difficult people. And we still utilize the coping mechanisms that we used while we were incarcerated here on the outside, and they're not necessary. The second part of the second question, especially once they are back outside, to me, refused, again, not only assimilation, but I sort of lived in a little bit of a dream where I couldn't believe that I was incarcerated. And so in my own fake reality, it made it easier to not assimilate, except when it came down to confrontation. I just picked up right where I left off, and as the doors closed, you just try and open another one with, the work situation or whatever your situation you're dealing with. I just have a way to deal, and it's my own. And again, I'm so grateful for the museum here to find a real, true intersection between art, museum, and community. I think that's really what's missing for most people in general, is just the ability to feel love and support, and that they're wanted or needed, or that they have a purpose in this life.
Thanks, Adam. So by New Mexico Corrections Department policy, those of us that work in the department could face serious disciplinary, possibly even charges for contact with, if I had contact with some of my clients. But I do have it on account that there's a program that started recently through the Department of Health called the Certified Peer Support Worker Program, where people can gain their own, use their own experience. We have some CPSWs in here. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your service. You're awesome. Freedom fighter there, row 4. So that program has moved into NMCD. And so 2 years ago, my colleagues and I, we graduated a dozen level 2 inmates. And I have it on pretty good account that 3 of those guys are doing really well. They're helping out in the methadone clinics down in Albuquerque. And they're using their own recovery experience to help others in recovery. Right now, down in Grants, at that facility, there are women and men, and the hub of the New Mexico Corrections Department CPSW program is going to be based there. And so the idea there is to train, some women and men that will then go out into, that's the idea, is after they successfully finish, they'll be assigned to different prisons in New Mexico to help my department, to help the mental health department. And what they do is when we have individuals on suicide watch, they'll also be there offering support for those individuals that are in that situation. We do have stuff in place, but I mean, it's like moving elephants across, from town. It's just really hard. It takes a lot. But there are some stuff that's been done. I just want to say real quick how prison has changed me. I don't have a PRD date. That's short for projected release date. I'm a lifer. And I joke with my guys, I tell them you could get pissed off at me because I leave at 4:30, but when you guys roll out, I'm still here. But invariably at some point in the day, sometimes several times a day, I think of my clients back at PNM. When I'm walking my dog, invariably I'll realize, wow, I'm walking my dog. Like, it's taken my mindfulness practice to this whole other level. Even when I'm using the bathroom, you can't have privacy in prison, especially at the lower levels, where you're in a dorm, and there's like a line of showers, just like in, what's that Clint Eastwood movie? Alcatraz? It's like that at level 2. There's no curtains, you know. I don't want to offend anybody, but when I'm in the restroom, I am thanking God I have a private restroom. Like I walk with this awareness that, I mean, you know, I have some really, really nice socks on. You can't see them, but they're astronauts on them. You can't have this kind of stuff in prison, you know? And when I bought them, they're orange because my guys wear orange. They don't have a choice. Everybody wears orange. You don't have a choice. He had 3 boxers, 3 pairs of socks. You could have 2 pairs of shoes, one in your box. You don't have choice. It's removed. I try not to let one choice I make a day, I try not to. I try to be aware of it because there's so many people that don't have it. And, you know, my dad couldn't be here today because he's watching my son. Right? Because you can't leave Hefe alone. He'll go start party. I don't know what. But Dad wanted to be here. I'm going to read the poem that he wanted to read. You know, because he wanted to read a poem today. But I'm trying. My dad's 91. God, how do you get to be that old and that cool? And some people know this. Bill knows that my father, 91, still has not learned how to eat soup correctly. Okay? I mean, it's not a good thing to go to IHOP with soup and Dad because people are going to look at us like, wow, that's loud. The soup eating guy over there. But here's the thing. He's going to be gone soon, and I'm going to be in IHOP, and some guy is going to be slurping his soup, and I'm going to weep just like he wept. You know? I'm going to weep just like that. And my guys have taught me how to hold that. Hold it. It's good stuff, prison, in some ways.
Yes, this is Father's Day, and I want to acknowledge that my daughter is sitting in the front row, and I am wearing the shirt that she gave me this morning for Father's Day. Outside family matters, man. Outside family is something. We have been hearing about inside family. What happens to the family when someone's inside? Man, the thing about it is today that we're hearing this in the International Folk Art Museum in Santa Fe, New Mexico. This is wild stuff, man, to have it happening here at their invitation. Wonderful. Okay, we have one more question. What changes would you like to see to help people more successfully re-enter society? Might either of you have any re-entry success stories that you'd like to share?
You do the re-entry success stories, I bet. You've seen some good ones. Listen, I'd like to say something real quick. So Justin Allen here from Ole in the back he's done, just a little bit about his story, he's done 17 years in the state prison system here in New Mexico to come out and lead an extraordinary life. So I'll start with that reentry success real quick. And to me, he's become a mentor, and he's developed a curriculum called Unlock Civics New Mexico. And we've been working really hard to get it into the state prison system here in New Mexico. So going to the first part of the question, what changes would you like to see to help people more successfully reenter society? the thing missing the most from the carceral system is programming. So we are not given the opportunity to learn how not to go back. We don't understand how not to go back. And it has to be very, very intentional. So again, with people like Justin working on something like Unlock Civics New Mexico, where it's a program utilizing mentorship inside the prisons that already exist in the level 5, level 6 security of the prison, teaching those folks and being very intentional about what we teach them, how we teach them to be mentors within the prison to the folks that are going to be re-entering. That's the way that we personally see success with recidivism. People don't belong, again, in prison, and it's how we can intentionally get involved in their lives and the outcomes of a better life for them with things like housing, jobs, structure, whatever it takes, drug abuse, counseling. It all equates to programming. We need to be more intentional on keeping people out of the prison system. It's that easy. So if you guys have time to stop at the tables in the back and find out about that curriculum and how it's going to be run, it would behoove you all. And to also talk to Miss Kathleen Burke for redistricting, who's fighting for, right now is fighting for, believe it or not, minimum wage inside the prison system. I mean, why is it that an inmate can't make an hourly wage and leave with a bank account to help them get an apartment? Instead, they have to rely on state funds or support from the community when they should be able to do it on their own. We also have Sabah here from ACLU New Mexico as the community outreach coordinator. I definitely get out there. ACLU right now, we are fighting very hard to end solitary confinement, not only in the federal prison system, but the state prison system as well. And definitely chat with him about that.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, so there was a recent news article. I think it was even in Channel 13, but we've got now a culinary program at PNM. It just started. And another poet's involved, Jimmy Santiago Baca is involved, and they're giving these guys certificates. And there's 8 individuals in this program. But I mean, we inside, as Adam stated, we just need more programming. But here's the problem, y'all. It's nobody wants to work in the prison system. And so, I happen to know Cabinet Secretary Alicia Lucero. I play music with her husband, have for many years. And so I know that she's working really hard at bringing back programs that were in place. These were trades, because not too long ago, there was a welding program. There was a major culinary program. There was a CDL program. These were all cut by previous administrations. I don't know why, but I know this because I see the paperwork. It's still around, but unfortunately, there's so many signatures that have to grace some of these proposals. But I do want to say something that I've noticed in my 5 years at PNM, back to that 80 percentile of individuals incarcerated that are there for a public health issue. I would say that same number, I have met about 80% of the people I've met in 5 years are good people. They're good people. They messed up one time, and they paid dearly, and their families paid dearly for it. I've met seriously 3 psychopaths. 2 of them were correctional officers
He's being honest.
in my 5 years. There's good people going into prison every day, and they're coming out, and a lot of people don't realize they're going to wash your cars. They're going to be washing your dishes. They're going to be the guys there at Allsup's. Is that even still alive, Allsup's?
There's a few of them. One's on the way to the prison.
They're going to be doing like jobs like, our Mexicano brothers are doing, They're going to be competing for the same jobs. If you want to carry a message out of here today, and there's a conversation about corrections, maybe encourage them to look into it a little bit and look at some of these numbers. And maybe encourage them to look at some of the policymakers that are trying to change things. It is possible. But, I get asked a lot, like, oh my God, you're like an LMH, so why are you working there? Like, can't you get a job somewhere else? And I'm like, I mean, I'm an unconvicted felon. I drank professionally for 20-something years, and right now I'm 50 years from now. And I just didn't get caught. Am I making amends? I don't know. But like I say, my guys have taught me more about what it means to walk with integrity than any book ever did, except for maybe Aristotle, and a few poets, most of them dead. But that you guys showed up today, I can't tell you how much that means. Showing up is like, I think it should be, I don't know, I think it should be like the best thing ever. Like, we should like pay people. Like, wow, you showed up, let's give them some money, shall we? It's a big deal. Showing up is such a big deal. And I want to thank you guys for showing up today. It's awesome.
This first piece was written by Justin Allen, inclusive democracy organizer, with organizers in the land of enchantment. We are fighting to be heard in a world that relies on our silence. Our silence has forced us to move unseen, like the mycelium underground that forms mushrooms. We have not ceased to exist, but our power has always been invisible. So nothing can stop us from surviving. Our connection to one another is how we survive. We were never meant to be isolated. As we connect, our collective power has established a network that seeks to transform the conditions of our society from the root up. As Andrea Ritchie explains in Practicing New Worlds, we are decomposing, and pardon the pun, the shit that is not working and turning it into valuable nutrients. In every conversation, we continue to sow seeds that are spreading like dandelions. We are laying the groundwork for universal suffrage, preparing the future generation for something we may never see in our lifetime, like planting a tree but never experiencing its shade. We are building a movement of awakening, quietly, patiently, concealed behind the vines and corn among the trees, guided by our ancestors, and assembled as a community. The fruit of our work is rising patiently and lovingly throughout this beautiful land of enchantment that is our home. Someday the enemies of our work shall feel their fears melt away, and they too shall see the beauty of all life. All life, black life, brown life, native life, primordial life, and the universe shall rejoice in life-affirming institutions that we have built. New Mexico is also known as the land of entrapment, where you come on vacation and leave on probation. We are also known for the most violent prison uprising in U.S. history when inmates took control of the Santa Fe Penitentiary in 1980. In the words of Dr. Martin Luther King, a riot is the language of the unheard. The uprising was the result of unbearable living conditions where people are programmed to repay harm with harm. Our prisons, borders, and walls are meant to divide, isolate, and separate us from manifesting our collective power. But we persist. The walls taught us to creatively communicate. Our artwork tells the stories of our struggles and pain, drawn on our skin and pañuelos. We've developed secret languages that fly under the radar of the officers who try to prevent us from staying connected. Sign language is how we communicate from our segregated cells. Our slang, poetry, and writing is only comprehended by those who ride with us in struggle. Our struggle has kept us connected so that we keep each other safe. As we create safety among ourselves, we have the chance to heal ourselves. Individual healing is community healing. So it is critical that we hold healing space for those impacted by state violence and incarceration as we center this demographic as part of our network. Justin Allen.
Okay, next will be some poetry reading by Tommy Archuleta.
Wow, that watermelon juice is really something. I haven't been that impressed by a liquid in a long time. There's a lot of cool people. I found the bathroom. That was cool. Yeah, it's hidden, but it's worth the journey, yes. This is the poem that my dad was going to read. So, yeah, just a couple things real quick. This is a poem by Robert Hayden, one of my favorite poets, and Catherine's too, my partner. We like Robert Hayden. It's one of his more favorite poems about his father, and I just want to say that a lot of the poems I'm going to read, just a few from the book Susto, they were born out of grief and loss of my mother. And Mom and Pop were married 60 years. And we lost Mom August of 13, sorry. And I can honestly say I didn't really know my dad because we both related to my mom so well. And so when she died, we had no other course but to start getting to know each other. Pop likes this poem because it touches something that he wasn't able to do. He never knew his dad. They were so busy growing chili and beans and trying to keep everybody alive, and they had he was one of 12 brothers and sisters. They didn't have TV, obviously, so they just made babies. And in those times, when you live in rural communities, the older children take care of the young children, and those are it's a labor force. Those winter Sundays. Sundays too, my father got up early and put his clothes on in the blue-black cold. Then, with cracked hands that ached from labor in the weekday weather, made banked fires blaze. No one ever thanked him. I'd wake and hear the cold splintering, breaking, and when the rooms were warm, he'd call and slowly I would rise and dress, fearing the chronic angers of that house. Speaking indifferently to him, we had driven out the cold. Who had driven out the cold and polished my good shoes as well? What did I know? What did I know then of love's austere and lonely offices? So yeah, it's quite something to be raised by somebody that you don't know. So one of the things that I did start to see when I was putting these poems together was the folkloric medicinal practice of curandorismo, which is taking medicinal herbs to treat maladies, ranging from headaches to stomach aches to menstrual cramps to, mostly physical stuff. But the work seemed to be asking for remedios for stuff like your wife dying and leaving you on this earth. What do you do with that? Remedio ocotillo, which is Spanish for cottonwood. To forgive one's beloved for dying, pick the long, feather-like crimson flowers in early spring when the desert is in bloom. Boil in river water only. Let cool. Drink at once. Drink when waking, at noon, and at bedtime, each day for 3 full weeks thereafter. If resentment persists, go to your loved one's grave daily and pray for forgiveness until sound sleep and appetite return. Black pearls, black pearls, black pearls each, sings Father from sleep. And through each pearl a hole bored for the lengthening chain of days to pass through. Only goat's milk and sweet bread will he eat. Only Job, in from tending his own fields, will he rise to greet, to feed, to speak to. My last days, may they pass slow as black smoke goes, Father. Father's only prayer, his only prayer of late. No, I'm certain, Mom, that he stole it from Adam. I'm sure, who first uttered it just outside the garden the first night he spent alone. Father, you need to know that again last night she came to me. She was leading the first lamb I raised to slaughter. The cold was there, but no snow on the branches or in the fields. Snow only coating the path to the river and back. Look at your hands, she kept saying. Look at them good and up close, then drive them into the snow on down to the red loam, and just watch what happens next. What is it about life that tears us apart piece by piece until, like magic, we disappear? And how long does it take, do you think, Father, to prepare for your last day alive this far into winter, the nights lasting twice as long as yours? So this last poem, I wanted to read this because I'm going back to so much of what my clients have taught me about paying attention to life out here, especially to those we love and the things we love, you know, like writing poems, drinking watermelon juice. So Antonio Machado, who passed in 1939, a couple years after Mom was born, he was a philosopher and one of Spain's really applauded and lauded voices. And I fell in love with this poem a long time ago. It's translated by Robert Bly, who sadly passed away with Alzheimer's. The wind, one brilliant day, called to my soul with an aroma of jasmine. In return for this jasmine odor, I'd like all the odor of your roses, said the wind. But I have no roses, said my soul. My garden has not one flower, all have died, said my soul. Then I'll take the waters of the fountains, said the wind, and the yellow leaves, and the dried up petals. The wind then left, and after weeping for hours, I said to my soul, what have you done with the garden entrusted to you? It's like a wake-up call, you know. And, you know, Machado he had awakening too. Towards the end of his life, I don't know if repent is the right word, maybe it is. But he resolved himself to stay awake. That's the problem with waking up. I think one of our first traumatic experiences is going from the womb out here into these lights. But thank you guys again. You guys are awesome.